nearly 2,000 years ago. And Jesus was on the Mount of Olives with 4 of his disciples, Peter, Andrew, James and John. You can imagine them looking out upon the temple area. You see, he and his disciples had just been looking around, and he'd foretold there'd be a time when a stone would not be left upon a stone. You can imagine these 4 disciples, when they're alone with Jesus on the Mount of Olives, they must have had all kinds of questions buzzing in their minds. So they ask him a 3-pronged question. Tell us, when will these things be? In other words, the reference to Jesus' destruction concerning the temple. Also the sign of his presence and of the conclusion of the system of things. In answer to that 3-pronged question, Jesus gives a lengthy answer. He details a number of prophecies that would have a fulfillment back then in the 1st century, and also prophecies that would have to do with this generation, this time of the end. I wonder if I could just ask you just to look with me to something Jesus said in the book of Matthew chapter 24. Matthew 24, and the verse we just want to look at just briefly is verse 34. In Jesus' own words, he said, "Truly I say to you, that this generation will by no means pass away until all these things occur." But of course, as we look at some of the things that he made reference to concerning this time of the end, some of them were actually mentioned in the passage of Scripture in our book study this evening. We can see that he foretold world war. If you look at Matthew 24 and verse 6, yes, he'd already spoken about wars. He said, "You'll hear of wars and so on, reports of wars, but see, you're not terrified. For the end was not yet." But then he goes on to talk about whole kingdoms, whole nations embroiled in warfare together. And that's what makes this generation that we're in today very distinctive. There's not ever been another generation like the one that we're in now. This generation is the only one ever to have seen not one world war, but 2. And even politicians now who talk about and whisper about maybe the potential for a 3rd. We've seen earthquakes, we've seen pestilence, we've seen an increase in crime and violence. We've even seen a change, haven't we? A gross change in mankind's characteristics. And that's really what Jesus was talking about when he made reference to a generation. Yes, they would have all of the characteristics that he was speaking about, that we would know without a doubt that we're living deep in this time of the end. Another prophecy, in fact a parallel prophecy, that we should take keen interest in is mentioned in the book of Luke chapter 17. So what if I could just invite you just to turn with me to that little passage. Now maybe just so that you can identify this is the same situation. He's been talking with his disciples. He's been answering this question about the sign of his presence, the conclusion of the system of things, or as some Bibles talk about, the end of the world. And if you look at verse 26 and verse 27, you can see that Jesus is talking about the days of Noah, just as he had done previously back in Matthew chapter 24. But this is the bit that we need to take note of. Verse 28. He says, "Likewise, just as it occurred in the days of Lot, they were drinking, they were eating, they were drinking, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were building. But on the day that Lot came out of Sodom, it rained fire and sulfur from heaven and destroyed them all." And now notice what he goes on to say. "The same way it will be on the day when the Son of Man is to be revealed." In other words, when Jesus Christ and the holy angels come to bring destruction at God's war of Armageddon. That's when he'll be revealed. But what about this other bit? Why does he make reference to the days of Lot? You notice there he goes on to talk about these ones. They were eating, they were drinking, they were building, they were buying, they were selling. In other words, life was going on as though it was normal. These were just everyday occurrences. But what does Jesus really show here? That we must not expect at the end of this system of things will just taper off. No, it will come with surprising suddenness. So much so that it could even catch God's people out if they were not to stay awake. And that's why that bit in our book study tonight was so relevant, wasn't it? That we don't become drowsy, we don't fall asleep, we don't fail to recognise the signs of things that are going on around us, which are in fulfilment of Bible prophecy. No, that we are wide awake, that we are focused, that we really know, and our lives reflect the fact that we really are living in the time of the end. We're in the time of the end, and the end can come at any time. That's how we should be. But then notice, Jesus says something rather unusual. Just cast your eyes down to verse 32. What does he say? Remember the wife of Lot. Remember the wife of Lot. Now, did you notice the word remember? How is it put in your Bible? Isn't it in bold, capital letters? Do you think Jesus then was really saying to his footstep followers, you really need to take note of this? You really need to give this serious consideration. Isn't that what he's saying? Would you agree with that? Because that's exactly what he means. Remember the wife of Lot. Now, why on earth would he say that? What was there to remember about the life of what? The wife of Lot. I'm just testing to see if you're up with me. Well, you won't forget that now, will you? So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to the book of Genesis. We're going to go back to Genesis chapter 11. We're going to go back to the time when Abraham left his wife. Okay? You know that Abraham left his wife, don't you? Some of you are going, well, just look at the top of page 19 in your Bibles. Abraham leaves Ur. It's the expression on your faces. You thought I was an apostate for a minute, didn't you? Eh? Well, if you just have a look at verse 31, you probably remember this famous occasion when Jehovah had already told Abraham, hadn't he, how he was going to use him in a special way. And it was for that reason, if we look at verse 31, it says, and after that Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot the son of Haran his grandson, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, the wife of Abraham his son. And they went with him out of Ur of the Chaldeans. Now you can just imagine that. There they were. In fact, if we just go across to chapter 13 and verse 17, we can just imagine maybe Abraham and Sarah discussing just what had been asked of them, what they were required to do. And here Jehovah had already said to Abraham, he said, get up and go about in the land through its length and through its breadth, because to you I am going to give it. Now just imagine this scenario just for a moment. Abraham has this voice. Well, it's Jehovah giving this message, maybe transmitted through an angel, directly to Abraham. And he says, now I want you to leave this comfortable lifestyle that you've got. I just want you to get up and I want you to go somewhere. I'm not going to tell you where, but I want you to live a sort of nomadic lifestyle. I want you to be sort of living in tents. Now, we all got the picture. So Abraham now has to go in and tell Sarai, or Sarah she later became to be known. Excuse me, dear, but Jehovah's just had a word with me. Oh, has he? What did he say, dear? Well, he's asked if we just get up and go. Oh, all right then. Where? Well, he didn't exactly say. What do you mean he didn't say? So what am I supposed to do? Give up all this, a nice comfortable house? You know, the family, the relatives and everything else? You've got to be joking! Well, she could have responded that way, but we know she didn't, because she was very faithful, wasn't she? Very supportive of her husband. And of course she also wanted to do Jehovah's will. So that's exactly what they do. They get up and they leave. And so we have this situation where we have Terah, we have Abraham, we have Lot, and we have their wives and their local sort of family members, and they all go off. And they now start to lead a nomadic lifestyle. Can you just imagine this situation? Can you imagine Lot's wife? You know, and there the wives maybe chatting together. What do you mean? We've got to live in tents. Up tent, down tent, up tent, down tent. You've got to be joking. But anyway, they go. Because they obviously are aware, you know, of the wonderful promises that Jehovah's made. And they knew that he would keep his word. Well, because they're living a nomadic lifestyle does not mean to say that Jehovah did not bless them, that they just went about the land as paupers. No. In actual fact, if we have a look at chapter 13 and verse 5, it tells us now Lot, who was going along with Abraham, also owned sheep and cattle and tents. Now, if you think about that, it wasn't how much money you had in the bank, but it was your livestock, wasn't it? And everything else that you had there, you know, that was what they referred to as their wealth. So they were well blessed by Jehovah. In fact, they were so blessed that eventually this leads to a massive problem. Let's just read on. If you look in verse 6, it says, "So the land did not allow for them to dwell all together, because their goods had become many, and they were not able to dwell all together. And a quarrel arose between the herdsmen of Abraham's livestock and the herders of Lot's livestock." And you can just imagine this situation, can't you? Hang on a minute, that's not your sheep. Yes, it is. No, it's not. How do you know it's your sheep? Because it's got 4 legs. Well, you can just imagine all this arguing and bickering. And the problem was really serious. It was causing division, wasn't it? So how do they go about that, resolving this problem? Well, let's just have a look in verse 8. It says, "Abraham said to Lot..." Now look at the beautiful way that he handles this problem, the way he goes about resolving this difference between the two of them. "Please, do not let any quarrelling continue between me and you, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brothers." Can you see how it has spread from the herdsmen now to a difference, arguments, quarrelling between Abraham and Lot? I can't imagine Abraham quarrelling, can you? But he must have done, because this is what he says. So how do they resolve this? In verse 9 it says, "Is not the whole land available to you? Please separate from me. If you go to the left, then I will go to the right. But if you go to the right, then I will go to the left." There was none of this business, was it? Abraham saying, "Well, look, Jehovah spoke to me. He said it's through my seed that all the families of the ground will be able to bless themselves. You know, I'm going to take this and you go where you like." No. Well, if you want this bit, I'll go over there to that bit. What a beautiful way. What a reasonable man. You can't help but feel drawn to him, can you? What a lovely way to resolve the difference, the problem that existed between them. Well, let's just look and see what happens now. Verse 10, it says, "So Lot raised his eyes and saw the whole district of the Jordan, that it was well-watered, a well-watered region before Jehovah brought Sodom and Gomorrah to ruin, like the garden of Jehovah, like the land of Egypt as far as Zoar." So you can just imagine him looking out, surveying the land. Why do you think it mentions that the land was lush? That it was like the garden of Jehovah, that it was a well-watered region. Why do you think it mentions that? Go on, let's have 1 or 2 little comments. All right, our brother right on the sound, right at the back.
I'd imagine that having cattle, they'd want somewhere for the cattle to graze, and the better grazing, the more cattle they'd start to have.
Yes. So, all right, and can we have our brother here, please?
Obviously the other direction wasn't very good.
Yeah, he was going to pick the best, wasn't he? Please, Brother Kimber.
Perhaps it also showed where Lot's priorities lay. Perhaps him and his family, they were looking at the material advantages of where they might live.
Right, okay. So it was good that it was a well-watered region. It was ideal, wasn't it, for their livestock? And, of course, because it was lush, it was rich, then obviously this was going to benefit them immensely, can't you? And, of course, the very fact that he mentions it being like the garden of Jehovah suggests what? What does that suggest? Please.
That it must have been beautiful to look at.
Yes. All right. Another? Let's have Sister Iris, please. Brooks.
Yes, and as long as they looked after it, he would provide for them.
Okay. All right. And please, our brother just here.
It probably had an abundance of food as well.
Yes. And just one final comment then, please.
So it looked like it would have had Jehovah's blessing on the land.
Yeah. It was like a paradise. Now look closely. I'm just going to keep reminding you in all my talks now, never just read the words. It says it was like the garden of Jehovah It was like the land of Egypt as far as where? I want you all to say it together. As far as where? So, now, I just want you to keep that in your memory, at the back of your minds, and we'll be coming back to that later on, okay? So there we are then. You can just imagine lots of, yeah, this is great. Well, can you imagine their wives? They're now having to separate, and of course, being family members, what would they have to do? Well, just imagine that you were going to leave your mum and your dad, and you were going to go to another part of the country. What would you be doing? Probably the night before, you'd have a get-together, you'd be saying all your goodbyes, your hugs, your kisses, and everything else, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Do you agree with that? Well, you would, wouldn't you? Yeah. Well, can you imagine then Lot's wife and Sarah getting together, and Lot's wife says to Sarah, so where are you going then? Well, we've been told that we've got to, go up and down the length and breadth of the land, and so we're going to be living in and out of tents. Oh. Why, where are you going? And you can just imagine sort of parting the tent cloth, can't you? And there it is, like the garden of Jehovah. Yes? As far as Zoar, as far as the eye could see. Beautiful, paradisaic, well-watered region. Oh, are you? Says Sarai. Can you imagine this sort of conversation? And maybe what would have gone on? Because they would have thought these things because they were human. They were no different from you and me. Lived at a different period of time, that's all. Okay, so we got the picture so far. Well, look at verse 12 of chapter 13. It says, Abraham dwelt in the land of Canaan, but Lot dwelt among the cities of the district. Finally, he pitched his tent, where? Come on, all together. In Sodom? Near Sodom. Is that what you said? Right. Okay. So you can just imagine now, there they are, they've separated and they're just getting on with their day-to-day lives. And then something absolutely drastic, catastrophic happens. A war breaks out. In fact, if you have a look at chapter 14 and verse 1, you can see who was involved in this war. But have a look at verse 11 of chapter 14. It says, then the victors took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their food, and went on their way. They also took Lot, the son of Abraham's brother, and his goods, and continued on their way. Now, can you just imagine this situation? Because where is Lot now? Where does it say he was living, Sister Penny? He's dwelling, but I thought you said near Sodom just now. He's moved. He's in Sodom. How did he get to be in Sodom? Well, just imagine this little scenario. There is Lot and his family and Lot's wife, and anyway, a few of the herdsmen's wives come along to their tent and they say, we're going into town. Would you like to come? So she looks at her husband Lot and says, well, the girls are going into town. Do you mind if I go, dear? Oh, all right then, but don't be too long, will you? So anyway, off they go. They've gone ages. And Lot comes out and he's looking in the distance, and there they are. They're on their way back. And you can just imagine the conversation when they get back. And they're telling Lot, oh, you should see it. Beautiful cloth. And you should see the pottery. Oh, it is absolutely magnificent. You should see. Well, anyway, the husband's wives, they go their way. And then Lot's wife says, what would you like for your tea tonight, dear? I can do you your favourite steak and chips, mushrooms. And then he's called on, you see, and he says, okay, come on, what is it? What have you done? What do you want? How much money? And I want my plastic back, please. Well, you can imagine this situation now. She's gone off into town, you see, and she's eyed up this beautiful house. And she tells him, after she's cooked his tea, of course, a confession to make. When I was in town, I saw this magnificent house. And it wasn't very expensive at all. So I went along to the estate agents and, I've made an appointment for us to see it. Please, can we go and have a look at it? Please, just have a look at it. I'll do you 2 steaks. So anyway, the next day, off they go. Get the key from the estate agents. And she says, close your eyes. And so he does. Anyway, opens the door, and there it is. There's this beautiful wooden floor going right down the passageway. You can open your eyes now, dear. And there it is. It is absolutely luscious. Come and see the kitchen. Double oven. All the mod cons. Come and see the bathroom. It's even got a jacuzzi. You can imagine this situation. And it'll only cost us so-and-so. If we get rid of all those smelly animals and all those bickering and arguing herdsmen, we'd have plenty of money. We could buy this outright. In fact, we'd have lots of money to spare. We could really have a really comfortable lifestyle, dear. Does that not make sense to you? So he has a words with the estate agents, and, well, in the end, this is what they do. They move into town. There's nothing in the scriptures to say that, but something caused them to move in, and there's no mention, is there, that once they've moved in, what's happened to all the livestock? What's happened to all the herdsmen? No mention of that. But as this dreadful war takes place, and what do? They lose everything. All their goods and chattels, everything is gone. Well, of course, Abraham musters up a small army, goes and rescues him. And, of course, where does Lot go once he's been rescued? Why, he goes all the way back to, come on. Now, you'd have thought he'd have learned his lesson, wouldn't you? But does he? Okay. So what kind of a place was this Sodom? Well, let's just go to chapter 18. And we can begin to see that there's this cry of complaint over the debauched people that live in that locality. So verse 20 of chapter 18, it says, consequently, Jehovah said, the cry of complaint about Sodom and Gomorrah, yes, it is loud, and their sin is very heavy. I am quite determined to go down, that I may see whether they act altogether according to the outcry over it that has come to me, and if not, I can get to know it. So what is Jehovah saying here? That he was going to come down from the centre of the universe? That he was going to come down to Sodom to see what the people were really like? Well, of course, he couldn't mean that. But obviously he was going to get to know what it was about, because now he charges two powerful angels to go down and to make a report. Well, this is what we see happen in verse 1 of chapter 19. It says, now the two angels arrived at Sodom by evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. You see, he'd gone back to Sodom, despite having been carted off in this warfare that had taken place. No, he goes right back. So maybe the house is still there, you see, but then maybe he's lost a lot of other things. But anyway, verse 2, it says, and he proceeded to say, please now, my lords, turn aside, please, into the house of your servant, and stay overnight, and have your feet washed. So what do we learn about Lot? Well, he was hospitable, wasn't he? He knew who they were. There was no doubt about that. So they're all in this house. You can just imagine, can't you? There is Lot, his wife, the two daughters, and now these angels. Materialized angels. Well, if we go down to verse 4, it says, before they could lie down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, surrounded the house, from boy to old man, all the people in one mob. Now, when you just stop and you just ponder what that's saying, it says they surrounded the house from boy to old man. What was their intention? Their intention was homosexual gang rape. That was their intention. This was absolutely disgusting. You can just imagine now these angels reporting to Jehovah exactly what these people were like. They were evil. They were wicked. So how do they manage to escape this? Well, of course, they all become blinded. If you have a look at verse 11 of chapter 19, it says, but they were struck with blindness, the men who were at the entrance of the house, from the least to the greatest, so that they were wearing themselves out trying to find the entrance. It's at this point that these angels now give Lot a very stern warning. It says, then these men said to Lot, do you have anyone else here, son-in-law, and your sons and your daughters, and all who are yours in the city? Bring out of the place, for we are bringing this place to ruin, because the outcry against them has grown loud before Jehovah, so that Jehovah sent us to bring the city to ruin. So you can just imagine, these angels now have obviously reported back to Jehovah, and now Jehovah's decreed this whole region was going to be destroyed. But of course, Lot and his family, anyone who was theirs, well, they needed to escape this place of danger. They needed to put themselves in a place of safety. Lot at this time is now galvanized into action. So what does he do? So look at verse 14. Hence Lot went out and began to speak to his sons-in-law, who were to take his daughters. And he kept on saying, "Get up, get out of this place, because Jehovah is bringing the city to ruin." Now, it wasn't just a case, was it? He just casually went to them and said, "Look, I think we better leave." No, do you notice there it says he kept on? So he was earnest, wasn't he, in his warning to them. These were the men that were eventually, had, of course, the situation been different, going to wed his daughters. They were going to become his sons-in-law. This is what was to happen. In fact, obviously, because they were in this arrangement anyway, that's just how they were already viewed, weren't they? It's like a person in an engaged situation. But how do they feel about what Lot was saying? Well, it tells us, doesn't it? At the latter part of verse 14, it says, "But in the eyes of his sons-in-law, he seemed like a man who was joking." Jehovah never jokes. If he says he's going to bring a place to ruin, that's exactly what he will do. If he says he's going to destroy this entire system of things, with all its evil ways, including its ruler, Satan the devil and his demonic forces, that's exactly what he will do. He doesn't joke. Well, what happens next? You can imagine him now just going home and telling his daughters. They don't want to leave. He's now told his wife, his daughters, that they need to leave. Just put yourself in the sandals of those girls for a moment. But these are the men that we love. These are the men that we're going to marry. Can you just imagine that situation? Now just put yourself in their sandals and just ask yourself, where was their loyalty going to lie? Was it going to be with those who disbelieved Jehovah? Those who were not going to take any note? You see, what about their level of spirituality? Or were they going to take heed and leave, just as Jehovah's representatives had warned them to do? But let's just look at something else here too. Verse 15. However, when the dawn ascended, so you can just imagine this is through the night, then the angels became urgent with Lot, saying, "Get up! Take your wife and your 2 daughters who are found here." See, they know that the sons-in-law are not going to go. They will be destroyed along with the cities. "Take your wife and your 2 daughters who are found here, for fear you may be swept away in the error of the city." When he kept lingering, now why would he keep lingering? Because that's what it goes on to say. We could just imagine now this conversation at home. There's Lot, there's his wife, and there's his 2 daughters. Well, he's told the daughters that, well, the sons-in-law are not going to leave. Maybe the wife is now saying, "But I've already bought the wedding dresses and the cake's been made and all the guests have been invited. We've sent out all the invitations." Or could it have been, "But I've only just had my new kitchen put in and I was going back to stick a conservatory on the back"? Was that what it was? Was that why they were lingering? Well, anyway, the situation now becomes desperate, doesn't it? Because then it says, "In the compassion of Jehovah upon him, the men," that's these 2 materialized angels, "seized hold of his hand, the hand of his wife, the hands of his 2 daughters, and they proceeded to bring him out and to station him outside the city." Can you imagine that? But now they give them strict instructions. Not only are they now outside the city, but they're told, aren't they, in the latter part of verse 17, "Escape for your soul." You see, Jehovah only promises to save our souls. He didn't say, well, I'm going to save your hi-fi and that 52-inch glass plasma screen stuck on your wall for the high digital television. He doesn't say that, does he? No. Your soul. Then he says, do not look behind you and do not stand still in all the district. But where are they told to go? This is where it really gets interesting. Escape to the mountainous region for fear you may be swept away. Now you can just imagine then, Lot is now pondering what they're to do. Escape? They're to flee somewhere, aren't they, to the mountainous region, and they're not to look back. Strict instructions. Obeying them meant the difference between life and death. Verse 18, then Lot said to them, not that, please, Jehovah. I don't know whether he said it exactly like that, but you could just imagine the plea, can't you? Not that, please. He doesn't want to go escape to the mountainous region. Why? He says, please now, your servant has found favour in your eyes, that you are magnifying your loving kindness, which you have exercised with me, to preserve my soul alive. But I'm not able to escape to the mountainous region, for fear calamity may keep close to me, and I certainly die. Please now, there is a city nearby, to flee there, and it is a small thing. May I please escape there? Is it not a small thing? And my soul will live on. And what about Jehovah's mercy and compassion now? What does he say? In verse 21, here I do show you consideration to this extent also, by my not overthrowing the city of which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, because I'm not able to do a thing until you're arriving there. That is why he called the name of the city, what was it again? Zoar. And what was Zoar like? Come on then, Brother Polidi.
Beautiful, like where he originally been to.
It was like the garden of... So it was like a paradise, a well-watered region. He didn't want to flee to the mountains, but he wants to go here. What do you think his motive was? Maybe we can start all over again. Yes. But did you notice something too in what the angel said? They were not able to do a thing until you're arriving there. Well, let's just read on a little bit. Verse 24, then Jehovah made it rain sulphur and fire from Jehovah from the heavens upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah. And then in verse 26, and his wife began to look around from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. See, it's easy just to read the words, isn't it? You can just imagine this little family there making them their way to Zoar. In fact, they're on the threshold. Who would have been in front? Lot. And can you just imagine the mother then just sort of urging the two girls on? Keep up. Now imagine this. All of a sudden, there's a scream. What would you do? You can know from the sound of this scream that it is your wife. It is your mother. What would you do if you were her husband? Are you going to obey Jehovah? You see, we all stand before Jehovah on our own. We all have an individual accountability. So what are you going to do? Would you look round if it was your wife? Now imagine you children, what if it was your mother? What would you do? Would you disobey Jehovah? The difference between life and death? Well, obviously they didn't look round. But they carried on. They were obedient to the word, weren't they? Now let me ask you a question. Was Lot's wife a worshipper of Jehovah? Put your hands up if you say she was. Put your hands up if you say she wasn't. Put your hands up if you don't know. Well, just go back to the beginning. Genesis 11. Who left? Wasn't it because of Jehovah's promise that if they left and they went where Jehovah directed, that through Abraham and his seed all the families of the ground would be able to bless themselves? Wasn't that what was said? She left her home. She was a worshipper of Jehovah, all right. Now let me ask you another question. Did she have faith? Put your hands up if you say yes. So why was she disobedient? All right, let's have, please, Brother Abbott.
Because she allowed the material things to overwhelm her faith that she lost sight of the real life.
Okay. So our sister right at the back, please.
She lost sight of Jehovah's loving kindness.
Okay, good. And please, some brother here. Brother Adi.
She lost her fear in Jehovah.
She did. Yes. She loved Jehovah, all right. There was no doubt about that. That's why she made the move. She did exercise faith. She was a worshipper of Jehovah. All of those things. So what was really her problem? Her problem was this, brothers and sisters, and herein lies the lesson for you and me. Her love for Jehovah was not as strong as her love for the material things, the things of this world. Of course, it's when her love for Jehovah was put to the test, she was found wanting, wasn't she? Now, how can we just illustrate this little lesson for you and me? Well, one day there was a little girl. Now, she went to the supermarket with her mum. And as she was coming out of the supermarket, there on the counter on display were some little pearls, some plastic pearls. Now, the little girl's eye caught sight of these, you see, because they were nicely placed in a little pink plastic box with some white silk in the background. So she looked at Mummy and she said, "Mummy, can I have those pearls?" And Mummy said, "Well, no, darling. They cost £1.99. Have you got £1.99? No, Mummy. Well, if you'd like to do some chores and save up some money, then you'll be able to have the pearls. Okay, Mummy. So anyway, as soon as they got home, she asked Mummy and she asked Daddy if there were any chores that she could do so that she could have some money to buy these pearls. She even went to her next door neighbour and asked if there's any jobs that she could do. The next door neighbour said, "Yes, well, there's lots of leaves on the grass. If you'd like to collect those up, I'll give you some money towards your pearls." Well, you can imagine as each day went by, eventually she was counting her money and, well, one day she had just enough to buy the pearls. "Mummy, Mummy," she said, "I've got enough money to buy the pearls. Can we go down to the supermarket and buy the pearls?" "Okay, dear, we'll go down a little bit later on." Well, you can just imagine now her excitement, can't you? She's got all her money in her hand, and off they go down to the supermarket. Mummy gets her shopping, and on the way out, there they are. Their pearls are still there. They haven't sold out. So she hands over the money, and she's now got her pearls. And she's showing everybody her pearls. She puts them on, and she says, "Look at my new pearls." She even shows the next door neighbour, and tells the next door neighbour that she's not allowed to wear them in the bathroom because they make her neck go green. She's really proud of her pearls. Well, anyway, she goes off to bed, and her Daddy comes up to say a prayer with her and to say good night. And anyway, he just said the prayer, and he said, "Oh, before I go, give me your pearls." And the little girl looks up at Daddy and she says, "No, Daddy, you can't have my pearls. But you can have my new Barbie horse that I've just bought, you know, with the pink tail and the pink mane. You can have that." "No, that's all right, dear," he says. "Go to sleep." Anyway, the nightlight is on and he closes the door. And anyway, the next day, at the end of the day, Daddy goes up again to say a prayer with his daughter. And after the prayer, he says, "Give me your pearls." "No, Daddy, you can't have my pearls, but you can have my new doll, the one with the yellow cover." "No, that's all right, dear. Thank you anyway." And he kissed her on the cheek and said good night. The next day, he goes up to say the prayer with her, but this time, there she is, she's sitting on the bed, cross-legged. And there are tears just running down her cheeks. And so Daddy said to her, "What's the matter?" So she holds out her little hand and gives him the pearls. Daddy now is in tears. And he kisses her and he hugs her. And then he takes out of his pocket a blue velvet box. And in the blue velvet box, he opens it up, and her eyes are really wide, they're bright. And as he opens it up, there inside the box is a string of genuine pearls. And he gives them to her. Well, of course, they're both crying now. The moral of the story is, you see, Daddy was waiting for her to give up the plastic, the cheap, the pearls which weren't really pearls, the imitation stuff, so that he could give her the genuine article. And that's what Jehovah wants to do with you and me. You see, we look around this world, don't we? And we think it's fantastic, it's magnificent. That mobile phone, that television, that car with all the gizmos and gadgets in it. We think it's absolutely fantastic. But this is Satan's world. Don't you think Jehovah could do 1,000,000 times better? Don't you think he wants far better for you? Where does he want you to focus your sights? Is it on the cheap, the imitation things of Satan's world? Does he want you to have all the material things of this system of things? You see, what Jehovah's got in store for you and me is far superior to anything that the God of this system of things can give to you and me. The greatest thing that we could have now and cling on to is this precious treasure of the truth, our relationship with Jehovah God. This tremendous hope that we have for the future, which is not just pie in the sky stuff. This will very soon become a reality for you and me. That's what Jehovah wants. But let's just look at something just in conclusion here. Verse 30. Later, Lot went up from Zoar and began dwelling where? Where? Which is where he should have gone. And where's he living? It says, and his 2 daughters along with him, because he got to be afraid of dwelling in Zoar. So he began dwelling in a... Isn't that powerful? Yes, it is. He lived in a cave with his 2 daughters. You saw, he'd escaped, hadn't he? And his daughters had escaped with their souls, not the material things. So let's not cling on to this system of things as though it's going to go on forever. Analyse your own lifestyles now. Is it one that really reflects that we're living out the last days of this system of things? Or are we still pursuing the things of this world? You see, Jesus gave another part of his stern warning in these very poignant terms. Let's have a look back at Matthew 24 and verse 44. It says, on this account, you too prove yourselves ready. Prove yourselves ready. What does that mean? Are you strengthening your faith right now? Are you strengthening the faith of your household, you heads of households here tonight? Is that what you're doing? Are you all taking care of your individual responsibility to strengthen your faith, your relationship with Jehovah? If you were to look at your spirituality, would you look back over the last 6 months and say, it's increased, it's improved? Or would you say it's gone the other way? And if it has, what are you going to do about it? Very pertinent questions, aren't they? Because we really are living deep in the time of the end. Remember, we're in the time of the end, and the end can come at any time. So prove yourselves ready. And when Jesus said that, who was he talking to? He wasn't talking to crowds of people. He wasn't talking to the public at large. He was still talking to his 4 disciples. So by extension today, what's he saying to you, whether you're of the anointed or of the other sheep? You too prove yourselves ready. Because at an hour that you do not think to be it, what does he say? The Son of Man is coming. Well, we did say we're just going to have a look at a few pictures of the children. If they'd like to just come up to the platform. I know we've got some. Can we just have that on? Well, we've got a few, haven't we? Hey, look at this. Would you like to come on this side? That's it. Just all come on one side. All right. There we are. Just let me have my... There we go then. Shall we start with you first? What's your name?
Isabel.
Isabel, is it? And how old are you?
4.
You're 4. Can I... Is this what you made? And who's this?
Is
Is it Lot's wife?
Yes.
It's Lot's wife. Well, I think that's a very good model of Lot's wife, don't you? Eh? Come on. And what's this?
Pizza.
You've done a picture as well. Well, you've been very busy, haven't you, Isabel?
Yes.
Shall I show them the picture? Is this Sodom burning down? It is it? Look at that. You've got to give her another clap now, haven't you? Isn't that brilliant? Well done. Can you just come forward, Poppet? What's your name?
Thomas.
Not Thomas the Tank.
Yeah.
How old are you, Thomas?
4.
You're 4 as well. My, you're big for 4, aren't you? And is this the picture you've done? Well, this is good, isn't it? Hang on a minute. Is that, say, 4 3/4?
Yeah.
So you're 4 3/4?
Yeah.
You're nearly 5 then?
Yeah.
Oh. And we've actually got some words here as well. What does that say?
I don't know.
Who wrote that then?
Me.
Oh, right, okay. So you must have copied this, because it actually says Lot's wife. Look at this, brother. Come on, isn't that magnificent? Wonderful. Great stuff. There you go. Well done, Thomas. Come on then, Lewis. How old are you, Lewis, by the way?
I'm 8.
You're 8. You ate what? I'm only joking. Come forward. So what we got here then? You've been shopping at Sainsbury's, I can see. Are you going to take these bags back? All right. So what have we got here then? This is highly technical, this. All right. Shall I hold it? All right. Well, there we go. And these are all the bits that stand up, aren't they? Yeah. Well, you've obviously spent a lot of time on this. Oh, you're going to have to hold it there now, eh? Hey? All right. Your name's not Sellotape, is it? Well, come on, isn't this wonderful? Come on, what a lot of work has gone into that. Brilliant. Excellent. All right. Yeah, you just hold on to your bag then, as well. Just come forward then. And it's Scott, isn't it? Yeah. Eh? Yeah. We had a good lunch today, didn't we?
Yeah, excellent. Loved it.
You're glad we came, aren't you?
Yeah.
What's this business about your dad hogging all the white bread?
Yeah, I know. Have a chat to him after, will you?
Yeah, we will, yeah. He's gone all pink now, have you noticed?
Yeah, look at him. I see you.
Okay, so what we got here then?
Lot's wife.
It's a candle.
Shh. It's not. It's Lot's wife.
It's Lot's wife, is it? How'd you make that out?
Wax and salt.
Wax and salt. Well, that's a very good... It's ingenious, that, isn't it? Come on, you give him a big clap. Well done, Scott. All right, and who we got here? Just tell everyone your name.
Benson.
Benson. Do you know that sounds a very rich name? Does it? Have you got a lot of money? Eh? You wouldn't like to lend us a few, Bob, will you? Eh? It's a pity you're not a bit bigger. I could have borrowed that suit for Sunday. How old are you, Benson?
12.
12. Married?
No.
Don't look so embarrassed. So what we got here then, Benson?
That's Lot's wife and that's Sodom getting destroyed.
All right, and we've got all the people there being burnt up, haven't we? They like all the gory bits, don't they, eh? And she's a bit big, isn't she?
Don't know.
Oh, is that because she's nearer than the city, I suppose?
Yeah.
It's perspective, isn't it? Well, but that's very good. That's very clever. That. Look at that, brother. You won't be able to see it all from the back, but you must have a look at these afterwards. Isn't that good? Will you agree? Yeah, well done. All right, then. Come on, then. And it's Gemma, isn't it? Can I just turn around and see how my shaving brush is coming on? Yes, it's doing very well. How old are you then, Gemma?
10.
How did I know you were Gemma?
Because I saw you.
Yeah, we had lunch together, didn't we? And, of course, you've got your name on there as well. OK, Gemma, what have you done then? Hey, this is very colourful, isn't it? Do you like art?
A little bit.
A little bit. It looks as though you like it a lot here. A lot. They're not very fast here, are they? And who's this in the foreground?
Lot's wife.
Lot's wife, yes. OK. So we show them. Because this is a very good picture. Look at this, brothers and sisters. Isn't that good? Come on, you give them a big clap there. Well done. That's excellent. Come on then, Poppet. You look like a princess with that dress on, don't you? Tell everyone your name.
Sophie.
Sophie. Doesn't that mean beautiful?
Yeah.
Whether it does or not, it does now. How old are you?
6.
6. Are you married?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you really sure?
Yeah.
All right, OK. Hey, this is good, isn't it? Because what's that on there, then?
Lot's wife.
That's Lot's wife, but she looks different there, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Why's that?
Because we put glue on her and then we put sugar on her.
Not salt.
Oh yeah, salt.
Oh, salt. It's salt, everybody. But she's so sweet. Shall we show them? Look at that, because you've got Lot's and the two daughters there. Look at this, it looks very colourful, doesn't it? And there we are, there's Lot's wife. Brilliant. Well done. Come on then, and of course we've got Beth. How old are you now, Beth?
12.
12, nearly 13.
Yeah.
All right. Because, you know, some teenagers think they're too old to come up. Don't they? OK. So, what have we got here? We've got Lot's wife. Looks a little bit like a teapot.
Yeah. Yeah, she does.
Was that deliberate?
No.
Because you know the teapot song, don't you? Would you like to give us a little rendition? Are you sure? Yeah. Shall we show them the picture instead? Yeah. Isn't that good? Brilliant. Okay. Hang on a minute. Whoa, hang on a minute. We've got two pictures here.
This is Dad's.
Sorry?
This is my dad's.
Why isn't he up here then?
He didn't want to come up.
Do you think he should come up? We're not going on until you come up. So what's your name?
Rob.
I love this bit. And how old are you?
21.
Now, is there any truth in the rumour that you did this?
Yeah.
Would you like to see it? Now, if you speak nicely to Sharon, she might give you some extra pocket money this week.
Lovely.
Well done.
Thank you.
OK, so who else we got then? Come on then. And tell everyone your name.
Abby.
You're not embarrassed, are you, Abby?
A little bit.
A little bit, because you look a bit pink. You look like me. Anybody think we were related? So, how old are you, Abby?
11.
11. And what's this then?
The Argos book.
The Argos book. What's that got to do with Lot's wife?
Material possessions.
That's very clever, isn't it, eh? And what else have you got?
Lot's wife.
A salt cellar. Do you know, somebody gave me a little cartoon, and it had two men in a tent. You can just imagine these dressed up like Abraham and Lot, can't you? And one of these men is just saying to Lot, "How's your wife, Lot?" And they were just putting some salt on their dinner. And he's just going, hee, hee, hee. There we go. Well done. Give her a big clap. Come on, then. And what's your name?
Tamara.
Pardon?
Tamara.
Tomorrow. No, it's Tamara, isn't it? And that's a lovely name, isn't it? And you've got dimples, haven't you? Can you tell she's blushing? How old are you, Tamara?
11.
11? Oh, that's good. Can we have a look at your picture then? Well, this is very elaborate, isn't it? Goodness me, you've done a lot of work here, and that's Lot's wife. Yeah, and this is all the...
Material possessions.
Material possessions. And what have you got down here?
Some things about Lot's wife.
Some things about Lot's wife. Well, there's a lot there, isn't there? We haven't got time to go through it all now. He can't leave now, it's night time. Our bread is not ready. I must mix up the dough and put it in the oven, is it? Or we will only have unfermented cakes. Let me get these few things. Well, she's really made up a story. You're going to have a look at this. It's absolutely brilliant. Come on, you give her a big clap for that. Go on. Well done, Tamara. Come on, then. Have you got all your sparkly bits on, haven't you, as well? What's your name?
Amber.
Amber? I've seen you in traffic lights. How old are you, Amber?
8.
You 8 what? Oh, you're 8 as well. You're big for 8. Who was 8? Were you 8? Are you not feeding this one? That's because he's been hogging all the white bread. OK, come on then, let's have a look at your picture then, Amber. Well, this is really good, and this must have taken you a long time. What is all this stuff here?
It's the sky.
It's the sky? Yeah. But it's a very different colour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it's red.
Not many people know that. It's all the fire and sulphur, isn't it? That's it. And of course, with the distraction, and of course, there's lots of. This is all. Is that salt on there?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got real salt. Nothing but the best for you. Come on, give her a big clap for that. Excellent. Come on then, Poppet. And what's your name?
Ashley.
Ashley. Oh, come round here. Hey, that's good. Doesn't she look lovely? And what have we got here then, Ashley? Oh, just tell me, how old are you?
7.
Are you married?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, because I was going to wonder how come you lost that tooth.
Good. With milk.
You pulled it out. Is that too many sweets?
No.
Oh, anyway. Well, OK, we're going to have to move on a bit here, because I get told off for going over time here now, won't I? So what have we got here then?
Lot's wife in the fire.
Lot's wife in the fire. Right. OK, here's Lot's wife in the fire. Can you all see that? Look at that. So what's that made of?
Salt.
It's made of salt. Wow, goodness me, eh? So if we need any salt, we're going to come to your house. Is that right? OK, go on, you hold on to that, Poppet. She did brilliant, didn't she? And is it you now? Come on, then. And what's your name?
Jamie.
Is it Jamie? Can I pick him up, Dad? There we go. There we are. How old are you then, Jamie?
3.
You're 3. 3.
Yeah. Mine is a racing car.
This is a racing car. I can see your daddy's bringing you up well. So what kind of a racing car?
Blue.
It's a blue one. All right. Is it like a Ferrari or a...
Grey.
Ah, right. OK. We better show everybody this then, hadn't we? Yeah? Shall we turn it round? You turn it round. Yeah, you turn the picture round. There we go. You hold it. Isn't that good? There you are. Well done. Very good. Has your daddy done a picture?
Me.
He helped you, did he?
Mummy helped me.
Mummy helped? So why didn't Mummy come up?
Come down.
You want to get down now? There we go. Look at that. Go on, you give him another big clap because he did ever so well. All right then. So they've all done well, haven't they? OK. You can all take your seats now. OK. Absolutely brilliant. Well, you've got some budding artists in your congregation, haven't you, eh? Wonderful. Well, we've had a bit of fun with that tonight, haven't we? But let's not mistake the seriousness of what we've been saying here this evening. You know, we need to make sure that we're focused, that we appreciate that we're living in the last days and we all need to prove ourselves ready, didn't we? Well, let's conclude with a lovely song. It's song number 208. It's entitled A Song of Rejoicing.